And join me for the pledge of allegiance. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Is there a motion for approval of the agenda?
So moved.
You second, Mr. Pastor Gordon?
I second the motion.
He's not on the committee. It's Chloe Gordon
Oh.
and Elizabeth Hayes, and she is on the phone now trying to get into it.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, no, I'm here. I seconded. Or I
No.
said so moved, excuse me. It was me. I was just trying to get my note taker into the meeting.
Yeah. I'll second.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm trying to get Chloe in, so I have to resend it to her.
Okay.
I'll try to send it to you again.
All right. This meeting will be broadcast by the county channel. To speak during Finance Committee public comments, please sign up using the public comment form. You can find the Board of Education public comment form on our website, https://beaufortschools.net/about-us/board-ed/public-comments. You will receive a phone call during the public comments where you'll be able to speak and address the committee for a maximum of 3 minutes on issues within the committee's domain. The forum will be limited to 15 minutes. Citizens desiring to participate in person must fill out a public comment card that can be obtained from the board clerk. Are there any public comments?
No, sir.
Okay. In terms of the meeting minutes, we have the meetings for February 13th and March 13th. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Okay, I second that. All right, and Madam CFO, I think the board monthly budget report is next.
Good afternoon. We have for you today a year-to-date budget report as of April 4th, 2025 for the board's monthly budget. There are no significant items to note. We have a 55.6% amount used as of the fiscal year. There is a budget transfer that was made earlier in the year of $1,577. I want to point out, we mentioned it last time, but that was originally provided for a lease that we believed would be an accounting transaction that the auditors required in our previous school year. They determined that we no longer, that lease accounting transaction was no longer applicable to our school district. So although we budgeted the items in each department, those have all been removed from every department, as we will not have those capital lease accounting requirements this year. So they did save us a budget item of about $300,000. So that was a positive note, but it does reflect as a budget transfer, bringing that balance to zero throughout, not only in the board's budget, the finance department budget, and all other departments as well. So one of the biggest expenditures in the board's budget is auditing services. We just have, we're still undergoing and finalizing our procurement audit. So that would, there may be additional billing coming up soon for that, as well as any field work or spring work that's done in preparation for next year's audit. For the most part, the other item that we typically have was one of the major expenses is on the top of page 3. And that is the tech purchase and services licensing. That is actually, we have some remaining funds there. We're waiting on billing from the Beaufort County channel for the remainder of this year. And I believe that bill has been requested.
Yes, he said he's gonna start sending the bill, so I should get to it
Okay.
shortly.
Yeah, we haven't received a bill this year, I don't believe, or if we did, not much of one, so. I think the 7,000 that's actually under the year-to-date expended item there is actually the community or diligent
Yes,
software. So the remainder of the budget item is for county channel, and we expect a very large bill here at year end.
Is that, what's that normally, about 60,000, 50 or 60,000?
Yes, I believe so, yes.
yes.
Thank you.
And then the only other item that's a major item in this category is the organization membership and dues, which is the third from the bottom, third from the grand total. And that is SCASA membership, where you are members of the School Board Association, and our policies, administrative rules, and board policies are all housed on a section of our website that is managed by the SCASA organization. So that having access to that, to put all our policies on the website and manage that is, which many other school districts across the state do, that's part of that expense as well. So with that, I'll take any questions or comments.
Ms. Hay?
I do not have any. Thank you.
Is Ms. Gordon on?
I'm gonna call her. She's gonna come by phone.
Okay. Then I have one. We did not renew the lobbying contract, which I think was 40,000. Have we gained the benefit of that, or was it sort of like at the end of the period? So we'll have to go into the new year to see the benefit.
The lobbying contract would still be included in the current budget. And that was paid on a quarterly basis.
Okay.
I would think that,
Are y'all someplace different?
Yes, we are. Where are we?
We're in the tech lab.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Okay, so it's paid quarterly, so some of that will be baked already into the full year, because we've already got 3/4 of the year.
yes,
Okay, all right.
yes. So majority of it would have been paid. So there would be a quarter's worth of savings for the remainder of the year.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
And then we took that into consideration when building next year's budget, that we would not have that service available. But did leave a small amount for if there was an alternative service contract that would need to be held. So we did leave some for training for the board or something like that. So we left some flexibility.
Okay, thank you. Next.
Okay, the next item is transparency report for February of 2025. This is a 110-page report. Just a prelude to that conversation. Last time we spoke, we talked about exploring some options for consolidating our transparency reports for the committee and the board's reporting purposes to enhance that, the features to be more visual, to be more targeted toward having purchases or contracts paid that are outside of the norm, beyond a certain threshold. So we unfortunately had to put that research. We did a good bit of research immediately after following the last meeting, the meeting before last, I believe. And unfortunately had to put that on hold because of the budget. So we do expect to be able to bring something back. We would like to bring something back by the end of the fiscal year. So in the July 1, perhaps just immediately following that, to bring back for the new year. But right now we have all hands on deck on working on the budget, in addition to addressing fiscal impacts of all the many legislative bills that have come out this year, much more than normal. So we have a lot in our hands right now, but we do expect to be able to jump back on that hopefully in June to bring back something to the committee, at the following meeting beyond that.
And may I add just one thing, please? All of the reports that a person or reader or member now gets will continue. So physically, in the near term, this full report will still be here, so each of us can individually go through it, mark it up.
Yes.
But what we want to do long term is transition where those reports are visual, so you're directed to where the exception immediately. And then you can ask questions and hopefully your timeline is time.
And we'll still be required to provide some level of transparency report. There's certain format that's required by the state. So we'll still be putting that on our website, which all of the, this transparency report is currently. So we'll still be doing some form on our website as well.
Everybody okay? Ms. Gordon, Ms. Hay, you okay with the conversation?
Yes, absolutely. That's something that takes time to find the program that will fit us and our needs appropriately. So it's completely understandable. Thank you.
Lord, I understand. Thank you so much.
Okay. All right.
I don't have any specific comments about the transparency. If there's any questions or comments on those items, I'll be happy to take them. If none, we will move on to the monthly $100,000 report. We have both the consolidated and the detailed report. Ms. Yinger is here. She prepares all of these transparency reports with her team. Work really hard to ensure that these are done accurately and on time, ready for board and committee approval or review. Any particular questions, I'll be happy to take on these reports.
Ms. Gordon?
I don't have any questions because I can't see the document.
Okay. Ms. Gordon, we'll have to discuss how we might can help with that, okay?
Okay.
Amy is on her personal phone,
Oh,
so
okay.
and she's not being able to get her email.
Yeah, okay. Ms. Hay?
I combed through them and I did not have any questions. Thank you.
Ms. Crosby, if I may, sorry, I'm so full of questions. Just,
No, you're fine. That's what we're here for.
is it feasible and worthwhile in the comparison? Let's take ABM Industry Group LLC. This year, we're spending $884,000. Last year, we spent nothing. Well, someone who may be seeing these the first time, is it possible to define what NA is? I know he's not available. Can we have sort of a definition that says not used last year or something like that? Just so that someone looking at it for the first time can say, oh, I understand. Nothing voluminous, just acronyms.
It's just likely the timing of the payment did not occur in the month of February, probably right before January ended and or right after February ended into the March timeframe. So most likely,
Typically, it's listed and it must have been an oversight from us when we were trying to prepare the reports of the current year and previous fiscal year that we pay ABM sometimes for maintenance and for custodial, or now it's custodial in conjunction with maintenance. But yes, we could definitely be more clear in the rationale portion for the people who are seeing it for the first time.
And that way, people who may be external and looking at this from afar will know that we're answering all the questions before that.
I think the same thing would apply to Brightview, the prior fiscal year. We do pay Brightview for our, they're preparing our athletic fields. There may be other services under Brightview but they're lining the ball fields and preparing our athletic fields. So we do pay them on a monthly basis. So that's likely to be the exact same issue. And the timing of that was just a little different this time. So we can make sure to address those not applicable items going forward. Catapult, it was a particular program that was initiated for intervention services, and it was a one-time thing, so it was not something that we pay on a monthly basis. So that is something that would be a one-timer. But most of these will be timing issues. We just paid it in a different month. So we can definitely provide those details.
Yes. I'm marking on my notes to
You
discuss
might-
with my team.
You might want to use TI for timing issue, something very simple, not trying to tie you up with a lot.
Okay.
Oh, Ms. Hayes? Questions or comments?
No, sir.
Ms. Gordon? Can she hear? Okay, Mr. Smith?
Yes, in terms of Bright, you said that they do, what does that work consist of exactly, but yeah.
We have two grounds contracts. One is Brightview, one is Greenery. Greenery does more of the grass cutting
Greenery.
around the facilities.
Greenery does half of our grounds maintenance, Brightview does the other half of our grounds maintenance, and then our second contract, Brightview holds completely for athletics. So they do both half our grounds maintenance and all of our athletic field maintenance.
And when you said field maintenance, what was that? I know when we first got these turf fields and things like that, we would have a cost with that. Is that within any of this?
Do we pay for over the pebbles that are put in
They,
through our contract, or do we pay just the company that installed the turf fields?
Brightview subcontracts out with the companies who did the installation. Get it my computer now.
So there is maintenance on turf fields after, I don't know how frequently, but there are some, I don't know what the texture, whether it's rubber or whatever the surfacing that we're using. There is some that they have to overlay with some type of product that keeps the turf viable. So there is some kind of maintenance contract that is involved with it.
Yes, they do. They subcontract with a company that is the only, I should say, it's like almost like a sole source provider, since the installation of the field and maintaining the turf has to be done. And then they also have a very specific list of this is sand, this is turf, this is grass, so that they know exactly how to manage it. And then the scope of work and the solicitation, which is very lengthy, details out exactly what they have to do to maintain our fields and what their requirements are.
And do you know how regular they go out there?
I don't have the frequency on here.
Mr. Otting would probably be a really
Yes.
great resource to answer that question. We, other than pulling up the contract, it would, he manages that contract.
Okay. Also, in terms of how are they responsible for the track as well?
Is that an odd question? Yeah, let's go through your question, Mr. Smith, and tally those that we referred to this on. So you got two, what's it?
That was one, also, is that same company, in charge of the tracks as well as, I know I've been noticing like that some of our tracks are tore up too, so I'm just wondering, because I would hate for us to be paying the company for services that we're not getting,
Right, okay.
so.
So execution on the contract from operation. You got another, Mr. Smith?
No, as of right now, that.
Okay. Colonel? All right.
Pastor Gordon is on as well.
Oh, Pastor Gordon, you have any questions, sir?
No, not at all right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else, Ms. Crosby?
No, sir. No, sir.
All right, moving right ahead.
Okay, actually, I believe it was almost the same month last year, we had this conversation about OE, Operational Expectation 5. And I brought forward the same information, and I think we referred it to the issue to find, I think we actually got approval from the committee and moved it forward to policy committee, but then there were no further meetings, and I think the policy committee chair moved off of the board at that time, left Ms. Wisniewski, Dr. Wisniewski. So this never sort of came full circle through the process of policy committee and then to the full board. So I'm bringing it back again because it is an important piece, especially as we're building the budget. So operational expectation 5 is titled financial planning. It is a board policy. So unlike administrative rules require us to bring forward recommendations and changes for your information and then to the full board for information. A board policy requires it to be referred to a committee or brought to the full board for 3 votes, I believe. I think a board policy requires 3 readings or of a change. Okay. So this one's a little different. It requires a little more effort than just the standard administrative rule. So I am only recommending a change to 2 line items. And that is the first one says, and this is all about the financial aspects of the board, the district, mostly budgeting purposes. And so it defines that the superintendent shall develop a budget that maintains an unassigned fund balance no less than, it did say, 10% of the next year's general budgeted expenditures with a desired target between 15 and 17% of the annual operating budget for the next fiscal year. So this is a standard language as far as unassigned fund balance means it's uncommitted. The board hasn't just voted to designate any piece of the fund balance for a particular purpose. And it is very typical that you measure the fund balance percentage based on the next annual operating budget for the next year, because that's when you will actually spend the fund balance if you chose to do so. So the issue, and I had an executive summary, I think I better stick to that. The last change was made in February of 2021. So it was 4+ years ago. And the district at the time increased the fund balance from a range of 13 to 15% to 15 to 17%. So we knew the value, that demonstrates that we knew the value of increasing the fund balance. But there's some really important reasons why we need to have a fund balance at a certain level. So I have about 5 points here that I would like to just mention, and they're in your summary as well. Strong fund balance is one of the most critical factors in maintaining a high credit rating and is essential for fiscal stability. Our district's AA1 credit rating depends in part on maintaining the reserves that align with best practices and peer benchmarks. So the proposed revision recommends that we maintain a fund balance of no less than 60 days of next year's operations. That would be the change in language. This recommendation aligns with the Government Finance Officers Association, which is what I am a member of, and that is one of the areas that I use as the organizations I use as best practice. And I have looked at other school districts, researched, and others have, at least 2 other school districts I found, had policies like this one. So we're looking at peer districts, peer benchmarks. Currently, OE 5.1, which this states conflicts with 5.2, because 5.2 states that the district must maintain a fund balance sufficient to avoid borrowing a TAN, a tax anticipation note. And based on my calculations, I believe that 20% fund balance is what's necessary to avoid a TAN. And we've been able to accomplish that in the last couple of years and avoid a TAN after having 20 years of borrowing funds and paying expenses and interest and things like that as a result of having to borrow funds in the low point of our cash flows in the fall. So we've consistently maintained a 20% fund balance in the last couple of years. And that is critical to sustaining a level to ensure financial strength and financial stability and credit strength. So So the key objective of this policy revision is to enable the district to preserve sufficient funds and strengthen a long-term position. So we're not looking just at this year, but this year's coming budget. We're looking long-term to maintain that level. And we're getting ready to have a bond issue on the referendum. The board's already approved it. It's going to be issued in May, according to the debt day presentation. And the last couple of days, I've been working on updates from the two credit rating agencies, Moody's and Standard & Poor's. And they want to know if we're going to use fund balance. They want to know if we're maintaining our 20% rating, how that's going. Have we changed our policies? And so that is one of the critical questions in the update that I'm providing to them. And something that's important to them sustaining our current credit rating for $132 million bond issue we're getting ready to make. So I thought the timing was appropriate. One, we're building the budget, and two, we're getting ready to go out for a bond referendum or a bond issue for the bond referendum that was passed in November, and two, an 8% bond issue of another $30 million in August for our 8% projects. So it's very good timing. But my recommendation today is that we remove the current language and put a minimum of 2 months. That allows the board the flexibility of increasing slightly. The 15 to 17% could be interpreted as a cap of 17%. So, and we're currently above that by a few percentage points. So I think it's best to clarify the language to give us and give the district some flexibility to grow that or maintain it, grow it slightly, or to maintain it as is so we don't have conflicting policies. And we're able to maintain a strong credit rating. So I'll stop there and offer opportunity for any questions.
Ms. Hay?
I had a question about fund balances, but Mrs. Crosby addressed that in her explanation. So thank you.
Okay. Ms. Gordon?
I was listening to Ms. Crosby, and the question is, when do we have to let Standard & Poor's know?
I have until April 16th to respond to their, I don't know where I'm talking up here, I guess.
She's on the phone.
Oh, I have until April 16th to respond to her questions, which are basically the same questions that we had in the fall, just that are there any changes? So I have stated in my draft that I have not submitted yet that I was coming to the board for a potential change to the policy, and that I was going to attach, a draft of the policy or indicate at least some initial language of what that would look like. So I was not planning on providing anything definitive, just that we are actively talking about ways that we can maintain or grow the fund balance if needed. So they want reassurance that we're not planning to use fund balance or decrease it anyway. So I think as long as they get that message, that we'll be fine with the current responses.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Colonel Guy, any question?
The policy committee hasn't met because we're going to have a discussion about the way policy committees are, what policy does and does not do. And so this here does not, in my view, does not need to go to policy committee. Policy committee reflects what we do, not what we're planning to do. This is what we're planning to do. Okay, that is the prerogative of the committee to say that this is what we are planning to do with our fund balance requirement. And then that goes to a vote to the board. This is what we're planning to do. Once that has been passed by the board, then it goes to the policy committee to say, this is what we've done. Policy committees are not for planning. Policy committees is for continuity. So that when somebody comes into the board, well, what have we been doing? This is what we've been doing. It's a continuity thing, not a planning thing. This is planning. So I believe that it is appropriate for this committee to bring to the full board on a motion that we wish to change the fund balance from 10% of the next year's general fund to 2 months of the next year's balance. That is what's proper in my belief. Then it goes to policy. Okay, policy does not drive operations. Operations and current decisions drive policy. So, I just looked at what it would be on last year's budget. What is our fund balance number now?
72.
Well, 20% of last year's budget, this current year's budget is 71,800,000, so it's 72. That's what we are doing.
Yeah. We're at 20.1%.
Yeah.
So we're just slightly above.
And that's 20%. That's two months worth of the fiscal year.
Yeah. We want to be, I have no interest in having massive increases to this. I like the 20% mark, and that's where kind of the goal and the threshold for building the future budget is to maintain that percentage, because it's not the amount that the credit rating agencies look at, it's the percentage compared to your peers. So that's the measuring stick that I'm using while I'm building the budget.
Now, there's two fund balances. There's our operations fund balance, there's our debt service fund balance. Both of those are separate, but both of those should be at the 20% or.
Well, we have a
It's
little different strategy on debt
different
service,
strategy.
yes. We have, on debt service, our goal is a low point of no less than $5 million at any point in time. And December 31st is our low point, because, it's actually November 30th, right before tax revenues come in again, but we've just paid our fall interest payments. So we have to have enough in the fund balance at June 30 to pay fall interest payments of several $1 million. And then the low point, we don't want less than about $4 or $5 million in the fund balance at year end. And then tax revenues, come in December in debt service as well. So it's a little different strategy. We don't really base it on a percentage, but more a dollar amount.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so that's what's important to say is what our fund balance for debt service is based on. It's based on when our principal and interest has to be paid and what our revenue is at the time. So that's a good way of saying it, rather than the percentage.
Can you incorporate that verbiage? Because I see that report that comes out where it says our low point's $5 million, roughly 2 years in a row. But I know that that's a trigger, but if there's some explanation of what we're trying to do.
Yeah, we could certainly incorporate it, and we could clarify that this is just the operating fund balance, and that the debt service fund balance would be the strategy for that, or the recommended low point would be a $4 million or $5 million point as of December 31st.
And you get it 4 or 5 because traditionally that's the cushion that's needed for protection, or some of them.
Well, there aren't any expenses. The only expenses in the debt service fund come in about September is interest only, and March, April is principal and interest. So the bulk of the payments are in April. And you think about the timing of when tax revenue comes in is December and January, right between those two. So there's really no need for us to have a large fund balance at December when we know we're going to get tax revenue in December and January. So it won't pay, $5 million won't pay for March and April, but it will just have some reserves in there if any, in particular expenses, arose. But that really is not, the operating fund balance would be a place that we would go for emergencies.
Okay. All right, thank you. Pastor Moore, you have any questions or comments, sir?
Gordon?
Gordon. Oh, my goodness. I said that yesterday.
It's all right. No, I'm good. I'm good. Thank you.
Who else is
Hey.
Oh, Ms. Hayes, she said she had none. You answered those. You explained mine because the question I had was on number 1, where it says unassigned fund balance. So what is that particular definition of unassigned?
It has, so an assigned fund balance, for example, would be a prepaid expense. A prepaid expense would be something, say say Ms. Yinger wanted to go to a conference in July, on July 5th. And we needed to book her reservations now to prepare to make sure she had adequate lodging and transportation. We would record that now, do a requisition for all of those things and a request for her to travel. And that basically encumbers funds
Okay.
now.
They become encumbered.
It is an expense of the next fiscal year because it's actually going to occur. The travel is going to occur, or the service will incur, or the product will be received in the next fiscal year. It is called a prepaid expense. So we're reserving the fund balance, assigning the fund balance to an expense currently that we know is going to come out just shortly after year end. So that is an assignment of fund balance. There are several categories, 4 or 5, and we don't typically commit fund balance other than prepaid expenses, but the board could, for example, designate money for a particular purpose for the next fiscal year to use fund balance, and it would be a committed or assigned use of the fund balance, and it would not be included in that fund balance percentage. So those are examples, something that either is an accounting requirement that would commit it, or the board's vote would commit it for a particular purpose.
Prepaid expense made it real. All right, anything else? So I guess we need a vote to take it before the, did I get you, Mr. Smith?
No, you didn't. I just leave it. I won't. I just wait. I think I'm good.
Okay. So we should have a vote to take it before the board.
Yes, sir. I have a recommended motion at the bottom of the executive summary, but that would need a slight modification to change it from being referred to policy to refer it to the full board.
Can we get that? So that,
And would Ms. Hay or Ms. Borden?
Ms. Hay, can you see the recommended motion?
I was just trying to zoom in on it.
You need for me to
And we
read-
are changing, which is being changed?
Referring to the policy committee, we would change to
The full board?
board.
Okay,
and
are you all ready?
just to make sure, because it's on the requested motion, right?
Yes,
Okay. And Ms. Hayes sees that?
yes, she's,
Okay.
she's,
Yes, I do.
All right, ma'am.
Oh, it just moved. Hold on. Quit moving it around. I move that the finance committee approve the proposed changes to OE5 financial planning and refer to the full board for further consideration.
For approval.
For approval.
I got it.
Second.
Ms. Gordon is seconded.
All right, it's been properly motioned and second. All in favor, say, raise your right hands by saying aye.
Aye.
Ms.
Hey,
Gordon?
aye.
Dallas, aye as well. Thank you for the clarification, Colonel. Thank you for the explanation, Ms. Foster. Thanks, everybody. Okay, anything else? Future topic?
I have 8 items for next time.
I was wondering why this was so slim.
There are a number of items for next time, most of which are relatively small, but they're things that I look back at last year and I recalled this is the time of year we have a few things, authorizations we have to get. So in addition to the board budget, the transparency report, 100K reports, we have the third quarter financial report. I have OS 37R, which are basically the unpaid meals policy, which no longer applies currently because we don't have unpaid meals now that we're full CEP or all free lunch, free breakfast. So I need to modify in major way, that policy. SS 42 is our wellness policy. It needs some slight modifications. We have an E-rate authorization that we do annually and a grant authorization. It authorizes, I believe, the superintendent and the administration to apply for and administer grants. So there are 8 items. I can share those with you. Did you want to see?
No, I'm
Okay.
good.
So we'll be actively, we're already starting to work on the third quarter financial report. It just takes a little while because it's all funds. And we've already started working on some of the others as well.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I would recommend that you don't change the meal piece because we don't know how long we're going to have the funding for everybody.
Mhm.
Just keep it in there.
Okay.
If it changes, but I wouldn't take it out and then have to put it back in. Just leave it in
Okay.
rather than take
Just
it
and
out.
hold, just
Just
put it
hold-
on hold for a while.
Put it on
Okay.
hold
Yes, sir.
because I
I've
don't
seen,
think that we will have that all the time.
okay.
Ms.
Will
Hayes
do.
has her hand up.
Yes, Ms. Hay.
Yes, I was just gonna ask Mrs. Crosby, as those documents become available, would you mind going ahead and perhaps emailing them to those of us on finance committee so that we can be reviewing them as they're finalized? Because it is hard, even with like a 2-day runway, it's often difficult to dive into the length of all the reports 2 days in advance when you have a job and children and so on. So if you don't mind, if that's possible to sort of like slow drip those out as they're available, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, sure. I do try to get them all done by the end of the day, Friday before the meeting, but this time I did not have time. I missed that mark and got them out a little later than normal, but yes.
No, that's totally fine. Any longer runway with the amount of documents is always helpful.
Okay, will do.
Do we have a set time as to, we don't?
We try to do 5 days prior to the meeting.
Does that crunch it too much?
I'm sorry.
We're looking at, I was just asking, question to be better informed. What's the timeline? Do we have a set timeline?
We try to do 5 days prior to the meeting.
Okay, so the superintendent at the end of last year, was going to implement a new, information distribution guideline, meeting guideline.
And so for the board meeting, it is the Thursday prior to the board meeting on Tuesday.
Okay, so for basically 3.5 working days, almost, okay. Is that something we should try to start without compressing too much on the financial folks? That, I guess what I'm asking, is that feasible?
Well, I assumed that it was applicable to the committees as well, so I try to get things out by the Friday before. And I have been successful in,
Yeah,
I think, all of them, except for this one.
Not-
So if I don't get it out, I get it 3 days before. So I don't know if there's a need to change that, but certainly I can get some of the documents a little earlier because I basically pull them into a shared document and load them all as we get them, and then I finish the executive summaries, and then we're able to get everything out. So I don't know if you need a definition of that or But we definitely have some of the transparency report, for example, has to be on the website by the end of the month
Mhm.
following the end of the reporting period. So February's had to be on the website by March 30th first, not March 31st. So that one's ready.
Okay.
So I could get some of the larger reports out.
Well,
sooner.
let's have the Thursday as an aspirational goal. Just to feel it and see if it's, you know, if it's doable. We don't want to sort of compress all the things you have to do. We're more concerned about accuracy, which you've always, your team have always met. Let's just see if it's doable, and if it's not, we come back and we'll have further discussion. If whatever the superintendent executes his, meeting guidelines, I think those would be pretty firm and everybody can be in unison.
And what we may want to clarify is, what if it falls on a Sunday or Saturday?
Right.
Does that count as a day, one of the 5 days? Because if you counted back 5 days from the Thursday's finance committee meeting, it falls on a Sunday, 2, 3, or Saturday. So I just provide it by Friday.
Mhm.
So I don't have to work over the weekend on that particular issue. So whichever.
With how large the transparency report is, absolutely, even if it doesn't make it, because all the docs usually come together, anybody on the board, the public can look at the transparency report by the last day, but it has to be posted. That's a regulation with a billing statement. So you could see it 10, 15 days in advance if you wanted to with more time. So if it's available.
Can you include that in future documents so that how to go about it for people like myself?
Sure.
Okay, and then to Ms. Hayes' question, that way everybody can get it as early as they want to, and it doesn't put more work on the staff. Is that fair?
So we'll certainly do that. Just one little tip.
Yes, ma'am.
On the website, there's a magnifying glass that's a search field. Anytime I go on and I want to go to transparency or a financial report, I just type it into the search engine and it takes you directly to that
So include that for
transparency.
people like me.
Yes. Website.
I
location
use
right
it
there.
like that all the time because I don't even know all the clicks to make. So that might be a shortcut that for those who are interested, can get into very quickly. So, but
Quick
we'll
question about that, if you don't mind.
Sure, go ahead.
So does that bring you to the document even when it's currently being created? Or because I'm used to using like Google platforms, for example, where workers can work together and everyone's in flow as the work is happening. Is that how Diligent works as well, or is it only there once it's the final product?
So what we're referring to is on the website, not necessarily in Diligent. So it's under the monthly transparency reports, and it's a PDF file that we post on the website the end of that month. So
Okay, perfect.
monthly there, it'll show you all the months. Then we click on monthly transparency reports again. And then we go to the fiscal year. There's a few clicks to get there, but
No, that's great. I didn't know that was available because I just happen to always go to Diligent. So that's helpful. Thank you.
yeah, so this will show exactly what you're seeing today. And you can blow it up and expand it and zoom in and all of that shows. So that will be up before we bring it to the board. So we do not wait until the committee sees it because it's required by the state that to go up.
And it can be matched with the billing statement as well, that actually is the official Bank of America billing statement for the P card for transparency as well. This just gives you detail of each transaction. And the reason we don't work in Google or anything else is because if someone was to receive access to this and make any changes, our goal is to be completely transparent. So once it is posted here, we do not change it. The same PDF or Excel file that is posted on the website is the same one. It goes to Robin at the same time, or to Ms. Crosby and Ms. Phillips to take care of that and to do a final review as well. So we don't want anybody touching it or changing it. It is what it is once it hits the website.
Any other? All right, thanks for the question, Ms. Hay. In terms of topics, excuse me, one that, and I think the Colonel hit on it and others have hit on it as well. The funding is very uncertain. in these particular times. And I think we're doing a good job of actually, you've identified where you had a number of programs that were affected and $27 million that was at risk if they were cut away. Can we maintain that? Can we get updates on that? Because it seems that, and for example, the free and reduced lunches come from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and our request was look at Department of Education. So there may be, extensions that is more than just one or two departments in the federal government. The other thing is that the elected legislators, hold on, the elected legislators at the state level, they're going to have to go through and say, well, if that goes out, how much comes and how do we distribute it? So that there's a lot of uncertainty. Thank you very much. So Jess, you've already done it and it was very good and it was information that not a lot of districts had. So if we can just do that. So
Update it and provide any updates that we may know of.
That's right.
Okay. We can do that.
Anything else?
Yeah, also, I was looking for a topic, and I didn't hear today about, the last meeting, I asked for a topic about, money going back to the state. I was looking for that to be on discuss today.
Okay, so
I requested that at the last meeting.
then it slipped through. I take responsibility for that. So let's add that for the next finance meeting.
Okay.
We'll get to that.
And then also, I know, we do, but also, I think we may have, but also, I would like for for finance, for to see what finances, what's the word for it? You operate the org chart for finances and see how many people we have and see what finances department look like. How many people we have in finances?
Well, I think, based on,
That was provided in the February meeting, and she gave the breakout of the departments and how many people were in it. So we had that available already.
Okay.
continuing that conversation, there's discussion about, how we might be able to become more efficient, not just a particular school district, but in general, at the state level. So that's something for us to sort of mull over. If that does come, that question comes to fruition, how do we prepare to answer? All right, okay. Well, unless there are other questions or comments for the good of the order, this meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all.